And Kurt, I'll tell you too, if I can. We
Say
hit the
it.
bathroom real quick, by the way. Go ahead. I'm not backing up, but I gotta use the bathroom.
It's a tough decision to decide whether or not to participate. You know what I mean? But I'm not getting any work done when I do this. I'm not attacking you guys, your audience. But no, we can.
No, I didn't
let's
feel
keep
attacked.
talking.
I have a feeling some people would think you were attacking, so I wanted to clear the air.
And so for me, that I just want to get across to people.
You know, this is people trying to get out their own agenda. This isn't necessarily credible. What do you have to say to people who say, well, if this is leaked footage, you know, this is people trying to get out their own agenda.
This isn't necessarily credible.
Set the scene for us here. Those appear to be flares, kind of in a triangle shape. Do you think that that could be what these Marines saw? Set the scene for us here. From the Marines, did they ever try to file a report with the government? Real quick, set the scene for us here.
Yeah, so this happened back in 2021, and of course, I thought it was flares.
Jeremy Corbell.
Hey, man, great to see you. Thank you.
There is something in the sky over the desert here in California. Something, again, I guess you have to call it a UFO. Because I don't know what this is we're looking at. It is definitely weird, but earlier this week, Jeremy Corbell, who we've had on the show, where he's going to be joining us in just a moment.
And George Knapp.
From the Marines, did they ever try to file a report with the government? Yes, that was the problem. We weren't getting information.
Thank you, Dan, and thank you to all the members of NASA's UAP independent study team.
You're a bunch of cowards and lying sacks of shit, and your names are going to go down in history. Watch it. Watch it. Can't believe it. I can't believe it. Can't believe it. You're a bunch of cowards. You're cowards. And it's over. It's done. We know. We have the information. Can you feel that? Huh? Can you feel it? Girl, that face. You had alien tech? Of course you could take over the world.
Greetings and salutations, friends, and welcome back. Tonight, we are going to be once again exploring this strange story of, I always put it in quotes, quote, UFO whistleblower, unquote, David Grusch, who recently came out and made some startling allegations, including that the United States government is in possession of recovered craft and debris or pieces of craft, as well as perhaps bodies of non-human pilots. Among his other startling accusations or allegations also included the fact that UFOs, or the occupants of UFOs, had murdered people. And this story is literally driving people crazy, perhaps including me, because you know, I have been here for a very long time, and I have seen whistleblower after whistleblower, I should say so-called whistleblower after so-called whistleblower, come and go. And it's always like an ebb and flow. And these people come in and everyone gets all excited and they overpromise, all of them. They all inevitably underdeliver. Many of them will promise they have evidence, but we can't see it just yet. But the evidence is coming, but it never quite arrives. And Mr. Grusch is no different. Now, many people have claimed that since Mr. Grusch comes with a good set of credentials and a background in the intelligence community, that he must be telling the truth. But we've all been here before. This feels like a sequel. This feels like Lou Elizondo 2, Electric Boogaloo. That's what it feels like to me, because we've been here before when a highly credentialed former intelligence person with the United States government comes and tells us all kinds of things and never actually puts up or provides the proof. So tonight we're going to get into all of this. Now, I'm quite confused as to where to even begin, because I have been keeping close tabs on this story even during the weekend, and nothing really new. But somehow, come Monday, there's new bombs are going to drop. And of course, but before we get to tonight's presentation, and by the way, we have an excellent timeline of events here that I haven't seen anyone else develop. And this timeline of events is going to become extremely important as time goes on. And we will be sharing that exclusively with you tonight here on Truthseekers. And while we're on that subject, I wanted to take a moment just to talk about something that is quite honestly making me completely and totally disgusted, which is this. There are people who are hyping and selling this story that have all been caught hyping and selling 100% provably fake stories before. There are lying scumbags in the so-called UFO community who host podcasts or shows or whatever, and they have lied to all of us multiple times before. But somehow everyone's rushing to these same lying scumbags to hear the news about this new Dave Grusch story. And I just want to take a moment to ask you, if someone has provably lied to you in your family or your personal life, how many times do you let them lie to you where you will still believe them? Once, twice? There's a show host that we've got him by the balls 50 times plus lied to his audience just in the past year or so. Oh, let's rush over there and hear what he has to say. He lied to you how many times? And hey, let's not forget that the original people that are all selling this story were all involved with the TTSA techno scam. And that's what it was. They promised everyone a spaceship and delivered nothing. They collected millions of dollars, though. Let's not forget that they collected millions of dollars. So along with that, I get the constant harassment of idiots. And there, I'm going to say it. I try to be kind to true believers. I really do. But I'm getting all of these nasty emails, messages. And of course, I got doxxed some time ago. So people have my phone number. People are leaving me nasty voicemails even. You're an idiot, Stephen, because disclosure is here and you're going to look stupid. Okay. But we do here at my show have an 8+ track record. We have an 8-year+ track record of getting the stories correct. And all of these people who are sending me nasty messages, first of all, do you think you're hurting my feelings? Oh no, a mean tweet. I'm going to stop telling people the truth and just jump on the lie scam wagon with everybody else, because then I'll get more views, which equates to more money, right? No, that's what the scumbags are doing. We don't do that here. We never have. And to all of you assholes who are sending me nasty messages, I am going to do a whole night where I am going to show everyone all the same kind of nasty messages from the Lou Elizondo garbage fake story, from the TTSA garbage fake story. By the way, we got those two stories right when almost everybody else in UFO land jumped right in to make some CIA money with the rest of the idiots. We don't do that here. And by the way, if, and I'm not saying it's going to, but if this entire story comes crashing down and we find out that it's all the same people that were behind the TTSA techno scam and pushing the fake Lou Elizondo Pentagon UFO program that never existed except in the land of Lou Elizondo's make-believe, right? If we find out that this whole story is all a manipulated mess by all those same people, are you people sending me nasty messages going to come and apologize to me for not lying to you when everyone else did? Track record matters. And if some scummy show host works for hoaxers or has provably sold fake stories multiple times, or like Linda Moulton House, she sold 100 fake stories and we can prove that, you know, you can go to those people who have been lying to you for years if you want to know if this story is true, or you can go to somebody that has an 8-year track record of never lying to his audience, of doing the very best to provide everyone with new information, fact-checking, demanding evidence, and getting to the truth of the story. I am beyond caring anymore. This stuff used to bother me. It disgusts me. I'll admit that. It disgusts me that some scumbags who work for hoaxers and lied to their audiences for years can get in on this, right? Clickbait the titles, completely and totally misleading clickbait garbage titles. By the way, I was accused of being a clickbaiter today. Show me clickbait that we've produced here. Somebody also came at me today and said, oh, you're the guy that pushed the Anjali story. No, I'm the guy, along with several talented researchers in the form of Charlie Weiser and James A. Conrad, who completely and totally investigated the Anjali story. And it's because of us that everybody knows that her entire original story was 100% fake. You're welcome, you dickhead. So there's another thing. If you're going to come at me and be nasty to me, then have some facts in hand before putting your mouth in gear like a dummy. Because I'm not having it anymore, right? And I have been more than polite to stupid people. And I just don't have the patience for it anymore. To be very honest with you, my 2 children are home with me all day. It's summertime. I'm very, very busy. I don't have time for you stupid people. So if you're going to send me nasty messages, at least get your facts in order. We here at our show have busted more fake scams, fake stories, fake psychics, fake UFO hucksters than anybody on planet Earth that I'm aware of, right? And we have an 8-year track record of following the story, and no matter where the story goes, we get to the end of it and find the truth of the story. If you want us to do this with this Dave Grusch story, we will. But you can't support the grifters and the scammers and the people who have been lying to you for years. Why are they getting 10 times our viewership and support? They've been lying to you for years. We're doing our best to bring you the accurate, real story, to peel back the layers of deception. By the way, this story is already filled with multiple, I'll say it one more time, multiple layers of deception, which indicates to me that this story is not going to pan out like all the other UFO whistleblower stories. By the way, you can see our previous coverage on past UFO whistleblowers so that you, and that's another thing, some of you people came into this in 2016 or something. So, okay, you're aware that you were lied to, manipulated, and deceived bigly once with the TTSA techno scam and the Lou Elizondo fake UFO Pentagon program that never existed, and the 3 worthless videos that those guys made millions of dollars out of that don't show aliens or anything extraordinary, and it's been proven now. And, you know, my one big hope for this story is that it doesn't take 5 years to get to the bottom of this one. And I, for one, I'm in the Grusch Rush now. And there are people that rush to publish this story. There are people that rush to believe it. before there was any evidence whatsoever on the table. People were rushing to believe it, to promote it, to celebrate. Disclosure is here. And by the way, and I'm trying very hard not to be like this, equally, there are people that are rushing to debunk it. The story must be fake. Well, we need evidence that the story is fake, and I will do my best, if the story is fake, to provide that evidence. However, since things are going a little quiet in UFO whistleblower land, all we can do is follow the so-called breadcrumbs and bring you the best information that we can. Now, recently, there is we here, and by the way, here's another thing. We were the only show that I'm aware of that actually presented new evidence on this Dave Grusch story so far. Everybody else is just copying and pasting, and you can see that. Go look at the hundreds of articles, just copy and paste from the debrief. No research, no fact checking, no investigation into the story, no new evidence, no sources giving you new information, any of these outlets. We brought you the exclusive story of Dave Grusch, Gary Nolan, and Ross Coulthart meeting with Canadian members of parliament. And isn't it interesting that that very Canadian member of parliament is now attached to this story again? The one that we reported met with Gary Nolan, Dave Grusch, and Ross Coulthart, in which, in that meeting, Dave Grusch and Gary Nolan were going to talk about something, and Ross Coulthart stopped them. We have to save that for the documentary. Did you know he likely already has a documentary deal with someone? Isn't that like a red flag or cause for maybe suspicion? How does this guy got a documentary deal already? He just got here. He's already got a documentary deal? Awesome. So, boy, the Canadian Prime Minister, who, by the way, we reported here exclusively. We had that information when no one else does. And by the way, I've got more information that no one else does. And also a timeline that we'll be sharing with you this evening. I cannot stand cut and paste journalists. I can't stand it. If you're going to cover a story, then add something to it. But we don't get that, especially in UFO land. What we get is all the liars, scammers, and hoaxers who have been lying to everybody for years with their hand out. Let's talk about Dave Grusch. Send me money. We're going to tell you that the disclosure is here. Send me money, right? They're all takers. They're not givers. And by the way, the timeline which we are sharing with you tonight is great research, and it's available right in the description of our video, and anybody can download it, check it for accuracy, know that it's accurate, and use it in their own research. That's another public service that we provide here that none of the scammer grifter squad will give you, because they don't do any research. All they do is talk. And no offense, but who cares about the opinion of some scammer that lies to his audience constantly, or works for hoaxers, or sells you fake pictures of aliens as real, or, I don't know, tells you they have conclusive proof of alien technology in a clickbait garbage story and then has nothing, right? These people have no value. And it does disgust me that they get the support, they get the viewership. And the reason why is very simple. They're willing to lie to you because you desperately want to believe. So they're willing to play along. Let's play disclosure like we're 5 years old and the aliens are here. Can we see the aliens? Well, no, not yet. But we'll bombs are going to be dropping. Sure. So I would just strongly caution you. We live in an attention-based economy. And if you're clicking on garbage peddler stories, you're paying them, whether you want to or not. Don't do it. If someone has a proven track record of lying to their audience, promoting hoaxes, promoting fake stories, don't support them. There are people still doing good work in this genre. Unfortunately, I can count them on one hand, maybe two if I really stretch. So this Canadian Parliament member, I'm going to share my screen. And by the way, this whole thing is glorious because we talked before about what a house of cards some of these UFO stories are built on. So we get a former intelligence community member who comes out and says, we've got intact alien craft. And, other people have told me this. He doesn't have any firsthand knowledge. And then Jeremy Corbell and George Knapp ride in. And of course, they completely and totally hype this, saying, this big bomb's going to drop, right? Go Canada. No. I don't understand how Jeremy Corbell and George Knapp are still a thing, right? It's amazing to me. All right, 1 second. All right, so this was the letter that was released. And by the way, somebody accused me of getting my dates wrong. Maybe it was March 15th that they had the meeting with this Larry Maguire. No, it was May 15th, but they have been. Gary Nolan, Lou Elizondo, Ross Coulthart, and Dave Grusch have been in communication with Larry Maguire for months about all of this. So here is the letter. And remember that Jeremy Corbell and George Knapp hyped this out the wazoo, and they also are taking it out of context and saying it's something that it is not. It has come to my attention. And by the way, remember, this Larry Maguire is the person that we reported had meetings with Gary Nolan, Dave Grusch, and Ross Coulthart on May 15th. This man, Larry Maguire, also had meetings with Lou Elizondo and Hal Puthoff previously. So when people are critical of this story, saying it's all the same people, the same circle of people that sold us the TTSA lies and the Lou Elizondo lies, it's all the same people. Well, they're right, because all of these people met with this Canadian member of parliament. Did I say prime minister earlier? If I did, I misspoke. I apologize. Larry Maguire is a member of parliament. It should also be noted that he's a member of the opposition party, so he has absolutely no power in the Canadian government. They just sit on the sidelines and wait until they, it flips again. And Ross Coulthart, Gary Nolan, and Dave Grusch only met with opposition party members in the Canadian government. So they met with people that have absolutely no power with the Canadian government right now. Congratulations. It's like me meeting with a retired senator. It doesn't mean very much. But this is the exact member of parliament that we reported that they were having meetings with on May 15th. And there's also an article Larry Maguire wrote himself about meeting with Lou Elizondo, Hal Puthoff, and others, all involved in the TTSA techno scam, all involved in hyping the 2016 New York Times article that was just completely and totally factually wrong about Lou Elizondo running a $22 million secret Pentagon UFO program. He did not, wasn't funded, wasn't an official program. It didn't exist, right? So this Larry Maguire, member of parliament, it should also be noted that he is like one of our senators that is very interested in the topic of UFOs. So it's no surprise to me that he's meeting with UFO people. But it's interesting to note that we got the story right June 7th. We reported this to you, that these people had all met with or were meeting with Larry Maguire. This letter is from March 22nd, however, but I believe they've been in communication for some times. This is regarding Defense Research and Development Canada in possession of recovered UAP material. Dear Minister Anand, it has come to my attention through meetings with American officials that, and that's the American officials that this man is meeting with. To my knowledge, he hasn't met with real governmental leaders. He's met with Lou Elizondo, Hal Puthoff, Gary Nolan, Ross Coulthart, and Dave Grusch. But we've reached out for comment to him to get him to clarify if he met with other American officials. Haven't heard back anything. That the United States Senate Select Committee on Intelligence and Senate Committee on Armed Services have been undertaking in-camera hearings with government and military subject matter experts on the recovery and exploitation of physical material from unidentified aerial phenomenon, UAP. I love that he's using the CIA term for UFO as well. I am concerned that expected upcoming public announcements. So see, this man, Larry Maguire, knew about Dave Grusch coming forward in May, months in advance, right? Public announcements will be coordinated between AUKUS, AUKUS, which could damage Canada's credibility with our allies and the Canadian public on the global stage. There is an opportunity to have prepared communication plan in place by May 2023 to reduce this risk. As Minister of National Defense, that's who he's writing this letter to, the Canadian Minister of National Defense, you may not be aware that Defense Research and Development Canada has participated in efforts to analyze UAP, which is publicly traceable to circa 1950. Now, here's where it gets interesting, because I know that he is referencing Wilbur Smith here. And for those unaware, Wilbur Smith was a UFO wackadoo. That's the best term for him. Wilbur Smith was a UFO wackadoo in the 1950s and 60s in Canada. And among other things, Wilbur Smith claimed that he had pieces of spaceships, right, from UFOs, that he built UFO observatories and detectors, and that he also telepathically communicated with aliens from Saturn and Venus. I'm going to say that one more time. The person he's referencing here claimed that he telepathically communicated with aliens from Saturn and Venus and was in possession of recovered aircraft. Recovered UAP or UFO wreckage. And it should also be noted that this man famously claimed that he met with American officials who told him that the UFO secret was 2 levels above secrecy, more than the hydrogen bomb. None of Wilbur Smith's claims, including communicating with aliens, having recovered crash debris of flying saucers, or anything else, has ever been proven since 1950. It's 2023. So what do we have? 73 years? Wilbur Smith has never proven his claims to be true. And if this person is truly referencing Wilbur Smith, this Larry Maguire, then we have another old recycled UFO story that was never proven to be true that is now attached to this Dave Grusch story. That's 2 most likely completely and totally fake stories from ancient UFO mythology, the other being the 1930s story of a crash retrieval in Italy, largely considered a hoax. Now we've got this one from 1950, a Canadian wackadoo, who, by the way, Wilbur Smith was a Canadian UFO wackadoo who did work for the government, but he so embarrassed the Canadian government that they shut down his programs. I'm going to say that again. He so embarrassed the Canadian government with his UFO wackadoo claims that they shut his program down. Mr. Maguire goes on to say this recovered foreign material is studied through the Five Eyes Foreign Material Program, FMP, which in Canada is sponsored by the Canadian Forces Intelligence Command, aligned with several intelligence sharing arrangements and treaties. I am writing to recommend you request a classified briefing containing full, sensitive, and protected program information from your officials on the government of Canada's historical and ongoing efforts on analyzing recovered UAP material. Canada's chief science advisor has also launched the Sky Canada project, which is investigating how the government of Canada's manages UAP reports. They are in the process of identifying key Canadian stakeholder institutions. It is essential that Chief Science Advisor be given full access to the defense programs and be briefed on collaborative scientific research efforts with our allies. It is imperative the government of Canada have communications plan to respond to these upcoming public revelations. By the way, this is coordinated. This is all coordinated. Hal Puthoff, Lou Elizondo, Gary Nolan, Eric Davis, right? Everybody's coordinating and knew in advance of Dave Grush's upcoming revelations. That's a red flag to me. that all of these UFO wackadoos who have sold provably fake stories before are now involved in this guy's story, right? We have to at least remember and understand that it very well could be that all of this man Dave Grush's sources are all of these people. Hal Puthoff, Lou Elizondo, Gary Nolan is for sure one of this man's sources. Gary Nolan is the person who gave him this so-called information on the crash retrieval debris, which doesn't prove alien, doesn't prove off-world, it doesn't prove anything. And that is the hallmark of Gary Nolan, overpromise and underdeliver. So what if Hal Puthoff, Gary Nolan, Lou Elizondo, Ross Coulthard, and others here, Eric Davis, are Dave Grush's sources for all of this, for this entire story? Because so far, it's been weeks, and so far, all we got is 2 old UFO stories that I'm sure Lou Elizondo and these other UFO grifters are well aware of, right? The letter goes on to say it is essential that the chief science advisor be given full access to defense programs and be briefed on the collaborative scientific research efforts of our allies. It is imperative that the government of Canada have a communications plan to respond to these upcoming public revelations that will stem from those American FMPs. Not only are there national security and aviation safety concerns that need to be addressed, but there will be a larger debate about why there is a lack of transparency and accountability regarding UAP programs and policy. Yep, the cover-up. I also believe there must be parliamentary oversight of efforts by government institutions, and responsible ministers should be fully briefed on this program, including releasable to the public content that aligns with allied public disclosures. It is incumbent that your department inform you of, hold on one second, I have to get the other page here. One second. Let me just share my screen again. And by the way, Jeremy Corbell and George Knapp hyped this letter up as some big bombshell revelation. What collaborative efforts have occurred with our allies and the details of existing agreements and memorandums of understanding that govern the program and may have been coordinated through global affairs? Canada's credibility with our allies and the Canadian public must transcend politics, and I firmly believe we can work together in a bipartisan manner. Regardless of the classified details of specific FMPs, the public revelations by these subject matter experts who have testified before Congress present an opportunity for the government of Canada to take visible leadership role in confirming the existence of recovered material and balancing our national security obligations. I look forward to your testimony, look forward to your response, and if you seek any further information, do not hesitate to contact me directly. Sincerely, Larry Maguire, Member of Parliament. And it's interesting, he sent this to the Deputy Minister of Science and Technology, as well as the Defense Minister and several others. But I think the most important part of this is that Larry Maguire is saying, we've got proof that this goes back to 1950. And apparently his proof is Wilbur Smith, which is a real problem. And John from the Black Vault, by the way, did an excellent piece earlier, which I just became aware of shortly before broadcast. And I think it's important enough that we will share that with you. One second. One second. Somebody is, let me find this piece from John from the Black Vault, because I think it's so important, because he got an expert in Canadian UFOs to weigh in on this. UFO expert, so-called. I'm so used to saying so-called whistleblower, and my brain is a little scattered. So John from the Black Vault gets a Canadian UFO expert, and he did a piece called Bombshell Letter Confirming UAP Reverse Engineering. I will put it in the description of the video after tonight's broadcast. And this is fair use. We're going to do commentary over this and comment on it.
As in recent weeks, Jeremy Corbell and George Knapp on their Weaponized podcast teased yet another release. Now, these always intrigue me. I've talked about that on this channel before. The last one, not so much after the fact, but this one I was excited to see. This was, and let me...
and I just want to mention that this will now make, if we include the Flare story that Jeremy Corbell and George Knapp just had an epic failure on, the Flare UFO story, this is now 2 stories in a row that were completely and totally clickbait, garbage, fake stories that George Knapp and Jeremy Corbell have sold everyone. But why should this surprise anyone, considering those guys also have sold the Bob Lazar lie for years, and considering that those guys sold us the pyramid fake UFO story and so many other fake stories. This is just another in the long line of Jeremy Corbell's failures. Why does he get to go on all of the media outlets to talk about UFOs? Look at his track record of completely and totally fake stories that he has pushed, right? And this is just another one.
Go ahead and jump right into it. This one was teased on Twitter by Jeremy Corbell, and he stated, "Happy to say that on Weaponized tonight, we are releasing a new document into public record pertaining to an allied coordination of UFO UAP reverse engineering programs."
By the way, Jeremy Corbell and George Knapp didn't release a new document. This document was already out there for weeks. I think it was out there since May 7th. And they're claiming that they got an exclusive on this document. No, Jeremy Corbell probably found it on Twitter. It is what it is. But I think language is important. And if you're going to say we're releasing a new document, but the document's been out since May 7th and nobody cared about it, I think that says a lot about Jeremy Corbell hyping garbage stories. Why is he hyping a garbage story? Oh, we're releasing a new document that I got on Twitter that's been on Twitter since May 7th, right?
No matter where UFOs are from, it is now openly admitted by our Department of Defense and allied nations that there are durational UAP reverse engineering and exploitation programs.
And what is his source for that? That's not true. That is completely and totally imaginary. There has not been a confirmation of that. But by the way, we can know that the United States government for sure, and the Canadian government likely for sure, has UFO or UAP crash retrieval programs. If there's an unidentified aircraft in the sky and it comes crashing down, yeah, they retrieve it. It doesn't mean it's aliens, right? You can look up Project Moondust, which was an ancient version of the same kind of a program. And in that program, they were really interested in Soviet space junk that was coming down, and they would go recover it. So I don't think we need confirmation that there's a UAP crash retrieval program. This is just Jeremy spinning yarns here. This is just totally made up garbage. He's just making this is fake facts. Nobody from the United States government came out and said that there is an allied coordination of UFO UAP reverse engineering programs. Who said anything about reverse engineering? Like this is what garbage peddlers do.
It's time to acknowledge the UAP presence. What I anticipated was a lot different than what happened. This was before the show. I'm not going to play the clip, but I invite you to visit Jeremy's page. That way you guys can see that and view it. But it was,
by the way, a good call on John's part not playing the clip, because it was, make sure you click on my clickbait garbage, because we've got all this new bombshell. And essentially the new bombshell is that a Canadian member of parliament became convinced, I think, by people like Lou Elizondo and Hal Puthoff and Gary Nolan and Ross Coulthard and Dave Grush, because he's been in communications with them, that Wilbur Smith had crash retrieval stuff in 1950. And that proves that Canada was involved in crash retrievals of flying saucers as far back as 1950. That's how ridiculous and stupid this gets.
Teased pretty hard. What it was and what it is this, a 2-page letter, about a page and a half, from Larry Maguire. He's a Canadian politician. And it was a letter that he wrote in March of this year to Minister Anand. That's Anita Anand. She's the defense, the Minister of National Defense in Canada. Now, I'm not going to read the whole thing to you, but let me read a couple lines. Dear Minister Anand, it has come to my attention through meetings with American officials that the United States Senate Select Committee on Intelligence and Senate Committee on Armed Services have been undertaking in-camera hearings with government and military subject matter experts on the recovery and exploitation of physical material from unidentified aerial phenomena.
Yeah, and I would like to know what Mr. Larry Maguire's sources are, besides Wilbur Smith, UFO Wackadoo from the 1950s, because here's the thing, like, everybody is acting like there's all this new information, but then we get these so-called bomb drops, and the bomb drops consist of a mention of an ancient, likely hoax fake UFO story from the past. And I get the feeling that there's somebody in this camp of TTSA rejects that just reads things and believes them. They don't actually, if you actually go research Wilbur Smith, it's not a true story, in my opinion. It's a guy making claims, kind of like we have now. Lots of guys making claims, nobody coming up with proof.
Jumping down, as Minister of National Defense, you may not be aware, Defense Research and Development Canada has participated in efforts to analyze UAP, which is publicly traceable to circa 1950. Jumping down, Canada's Chief Science Advisor has also launched the Sky Canada project, which is investigating how the government of Canada manages UAP reports. It is imperative the government of Canada have a communications plan to respond to these upcoming public revelations that will stem from these American FMPs, or foreign material programs. Well, that to me is not necessarily a DOD admission.
No,
so
it's not.
I was a little surprised at this, but admittedly, I don't know a whole lot about Canada's politics or politicians.
Yeah, he was
but
also a
a
fiction
friend
writer.
of mine
Yeah.
does. He is the expert on all things Canada and UFOs and UAP. He's been doing this for decades. He's been on this show before.
Yeah, and this guy's a real expert. So I was glad that John got somebody, because I know a few people in Canada, but I wouldn't necessarily 100% trust their take on things. But this guy seems to be more of a veteran UFO researcher from Canada. So I think, his analysis lines up with mine.
So I rang him up and I said, hey, what's going on? I need you to help me and all my viewers understand. Is this a bombshell? Is it proof of anything? Is it extraordinary? Has our world changed? Mr. Chris Rutkowski agreed to send me some of his thoughts. Take a look.
Hi, John. Thanks for the opportunity to give you my comments about these Canadian bombshell documents. I don't think that they're bombshell necessarily. I do know that Member of Parliament Larry Maguire has been very outspoken about his belief in UAP as a subject that needs to be studied in greater detail.
Yeah, this Larry Maguire is kind of like our Tim Burchett. You know how Tim Burchett is like up in everybody's UFO documentaries, and he's very active on the UFO scene? So is this Canadian Parliament member. He's essentially the Canadian version of Tim Burchett, the one guy in the Canadian government who is all chips in, we got to investigate this. And by the way, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think Tim Burchett is much wackier than that guy in my experience so far.
I did get a request from him to brief him on my UFO research that I've been doing for the past 40 and a little more years in Canada. And I do know that before he actually reached out to me, that he had been briefed by Louis Elizondo and a few other Americans. So he's gotten a different perspective on things. Well, as far as the statement that the Canadian government may have been taking part in analyzing fragments of UAP, that sounds a lot like what had been claimed by Wilbert Smith, who was a radio technician back in the 1950s here in Canada. He's best known for something called the Smith Memo, where he says that while at a conference in Washington, D.C., he was told privately that UFOs and flying saucers are a subject of great interest to the American government. As a matter of fact, they're classified 2 points higher than the H-bomb, which is a very strange statement when you think about it, because why would he be told that? Anyways, the point is that this Wilbert Smith claimed that not only had he seen pieces of crashed saucers, but that he'd actually seen the bodies, and that he had been told many things by sources within the Canadian government and the American government as well.
Yeah, so essentially, Wilbur Smith was the 1950s version of Lou Elizondo or Dave Grusch, somebody who worked for the government for a time, apparently had an intense interest in UFOs and UAPs, and made an awful lot of claims. All the same claims. Listen to that. All the same claims made in 1950. We are 73 years from Mr. Wilbur Smith making claims of bodies, of flying saucer crash retrieval programs, of back engineering of these recovered craft. And 73 years later, still no proof of Wilbur Smith's so-called revelations, so-called disclosures. And I think that we would be doing everyone a disservice if we didn't recognize that many, many people have made very similar claims to Dave Grusch. We had Bob Lazar in the 1980s. We had Philip Corso in the 1990s. All of these people have made nearly the exact same claims. And claims are just that. They're stories. This is not evidence. This is not proof. And I don't care if you prop up some other guy from the 1950s who never proved his claims, along with this new guy who hasn't yet proved his claims. Like if we get 10 of them, all of which are saying similar things, but all 10 never prove their claims, does that make the claims true? Unfortunately, in my opinion, no, it does not. Evidence. Hard evidence makes the claims true. Not, there's other guys telling similar stories to me.
But many people have pointed out that Smith also made a lot of unusual claims.
Yeah,
he actually said that at one point he was in regular communication with the aliens. There's a story about how he would sit in his backyard and telepathically talk to them and things like that. But, I mean, it depends on who you believe and who you talk with. I'm hoping that the Smith stuff isn't the source of a lot of the claims that we're hearing now. I'm hoping that some of it could be from a little more verifiable.
Yeah, I'm hoping the same thing, but I'm not holding my breath. The only person who matches all the data points of these claims from 1950 in Canada is Wilbur Smith. There's no one else. I really did my best to try to locate any other sources from 1950 that could be what this Canadian member of parliament is referencing, and I can't find anyone. So I believe it is Wilbur Smith that is being referenced here. And this, my friends, means that the Dave Grusch story has now entered into the Wackadoo Prover maneuver. And for those unaware or maybe not familiar with our show here and our strange terminology, we invent straight terms because there's no other way to quickly describe things. The Wackadoo Prover maneuver is when you have one wackadoo making really wild, fantastic claims. And what you do is you bring in another wackadoo who made similar or the same wackadoo claims previously, and you call that proof. It's the Wackadoo Prover maneuver. That's what they're doing here. This is the Wackadoo Prover maneuver. And by the way, we've got more Wackadoo Prover maneuver in the form of this 1930s crash retrieval story, which is a hoax. Why would Dave Grusch be getting briefed by the United States government about a hoax UFO crash story from Italy that even involves the Pope and a huge Vatican cover-up, none of which has ever been proven? They've had since 1933, I believe, to prove that Italian UFO crash retrieval story was true. They haven't proved it's true. The only evidence of that 1930 story is some documents that even the original Italian investigator said were likely faked or hoaxed. So that means the story is hoaxed. There's no other supporting evidence to the story. And we've got, these guys are now bringing in Wilbur Smith, a wackadoo from the 1950s who telepathically communicated with aliens from Saturn and Venus in his backyard, of course. This is the Wackadoo Prover maneuver ×2 now. And that's very problematic. You're making huge claims here. These people better have evidence. And the other thing I'm going to say is that if this entire story comes crashing down and Lou Elizondo is not banished from the UFO community and Ross Coulthart is not banished from the UFO community and Gary Nolan and everybody else involved with this, with pushing this story, Corbell, Knapp, everyone, if they're not all banished from the UFO community, then something is wrong. Because those people were all on board with pushing the TTSA garbage, right? And that was all fake. Fake disclosure. Your CIA disclosure. Sign up for your CIA-sponsored UFO disclosure. I'm sorry, but they're not here. The CIA is not here to tell the American people the truth. Check their history. And we, as people interested in this topic, should not accept anybody from the intelligence community, and especially the CIA, coming here and telling us that they're going to tell us the truth about the aliens. This, to me, so far has all of the earmarks of a psychological operation. And if you know anything about psychological operations, there are some telltale signs like coordination. All these people are coordinating all of this together. All right, I'll write this letter in March, and then you're going to come out in May to the Washington Post. But the Washington Post didn't want the story, so we got to put it on a blog on the internet in the form of the Debrief, who, by the way, are ringmasters. The Debrief have been ringmasters in the UFO circus for years and years now, right? They say they write about defense and space news, but go look at they write about UFO garbage stories. They're UFO garbage peddlers. Why, if this story is the biggest story of the millennium, does it have to be put on a UFO garbage peddler website? It can't even make it to like a real newspaper in like, I don't know, Iowa somewhere, something? No, it got put on a blog site. Very problematic. So we've got the UFO Wackadoo Prover maneuver in full effect here, right? And I cannot believe that we're a few weeks into this story now and still no evidence, but everything that does come out is another red flag here. This referencing of Wilbur Smith is a huge red flag because most people that are reasonable, rational people, even researchers that are interested in this topic, would have to agree that Wilbur Smith was a UFO wackadoo. So if this Canadian member of parliament is basing his opinions on a UFO wackadoo from 1950 that hasn't proven his stories were real in 73 years, and this is somehow being offered as proof of Dave Grush's claims, this is a house of cards. The whole thing is a house of cards.
And substantial information sources. I guess we'll just have to see.
Well, thank you, Chris, for doing that. Thank you all for listening and watching.
Yeah, I was glad to hear from
you
an
would
expert.
want a different voice than me yapping at you on how to take this. I linked Jeremy's tweet in the show notes below. That way you can read the entire letter. And as always, I'm interested in your comments, your feedback, what you'd like to see on this channel.
Yeah, and please do support John from the Black Vault, because I think that he does a good job trying to give people all of the information and let people make up their own minds. So what we've got here is people that have coordinated with helping sell this story in the form of George Knapp and Jeremy Corbell, who, by the way, coordinated and helped sell the Elizondo lies, coordinated and helped sell the TTSA garbage story lies, right? That disclosure that never came. And remember, all of this has happened before, and it will all happen again. We've all been here when a bunch of people were losing their minds. Doesn't anybody remember TTSA and Lou Elizondo? Oh, this is disclosure, right? And all these people went nuts and were being so nasty to me because I was saying, hey, I'd like to see some evidence. I'd like to see the analysis of those videos before getting excited and deciding disclosure is here. No, you're a debunker, right? Amazing that so far what we've got referenced for so-called evidence or proof by the people pushing this story is a fake UFO crash retrieval story involving the Vatican, of all things, from 1930s Italy, and a UFO wackadoo from 1950 in the form of Wilbert Smith. And by the way, I have some more information on Wilbert Smith. Let me, 1 second, let me just get to that. Because, we have excellent sources here, and one of them gave me a much better breakdown. And by the way, this source is in Canada of mine. And, I'm not revealing that source, but they do have what I would consider an expert level knowledge of these matters. And he says the letter Jerry Maguire wrote to Canada's Minister of Defense is simply referencing declassified documents and memos written by Wilbert Brockhouse Smith, a senior radio engineer who worked for DOT's broadcast and measurement section to Dr. Robert Irving Sarbacher. He wrote to Dr. Sarbacher about his Project Magnet second story. Wilbert Smith had his own UFO observatory off the Ottawa River. I believe he also wanted to build a UFO landing site. And his UFO observatory, writes this source, was off of the Ottawa River, located off Cartling Avenue in Building 67, 15 kilometers west of Shirley's Bay, Ottawa, which was a Department of National Defense complex that belonged to the Defense Research and Development Canada, DRDC. So see, all of these things are referenced in the letter. This Canadian Parliament member is talking about Will Smith because in the letter he references, quote, Defense Research and Development Canada, DRDC, up until the abandoned building was torn down sometime in 2011. They make it sound like some clandestine black project, but it was more like a hobby that Wilbert B. Smith did on his free time. Does that sound familiar? Wilbert B. Smith was never officially charged by the Canadian government with doing any UFO research. He did it in his spare time. Does that sound familiar? Kind of like Lou Elizondo, who ran an imaginary UFO Pentagon program in his spare time. Same thing. And he did all of this UFO-related, quote, research, unquote, in his free time until his untimely death, December 27th, 1962, at the age of 52. Project Magnet began December 2nd, 1950, and Canadian funding for it ended in July 1954, as sponsored by the Defense Research Board way back then. Canada hasn't done any major work on UFOs since the mid-1950s. So this story is exaggerating one man's obsession from the 1950s and conflating it with official, ongoing Canadian deep black programs on UAP that don't actually exist. This is what Larry Maguire's letter from March 22nd, 2023 is referencing when it says research stemming back to circa 1950. Wilbert B. Smith alleged he was in telepathic contact with interplanetary ETs from Saturn, Venus, and elsewhere back then. But he was simply one of the many ufologists making claims. There is no active, ongoing continuation of his work or any highly secretive program for any of the Canadian officials CC'd in Maguire's memo to actually get read into. All of this stuff is old news and ended 65 plus years ago. So there we have it. That this house of cards is completely and totally getting demolished here. And look, I'm going to say this one time. All these people who are making these fantastical claims, including the people that I believe are behind Dave Grusch, Hal Puthoff, Eric Davis, Gary Nolan, Lou Elizondo, Ross Coulthart, Leslie Kane, Ralph Blumenthal. All of you people have made incredible, fantastical claims before. If you have evidence, now is the time to drop it. Because if this story continues to play out like this, you are all going to be the laughing stock of this entire so-called community. Because the level at which this story is being hyped and the level at which people are willing to just throw away all critical thinking and logic here and just, well, yeah, this letter confirms what Dave Grusch says. No, this letter confirms that some wackadoo from the Canadian government was interested in UFOs and thought he telepathically communicated with them. He also claimed to be in possession of crash retrievals, flying saucers, and other fantastical claims, none of which has been proven in 73 plus years now. That's what this Canadian member of Parliament's letter is referencing. Wilbur Smith, a UFO wackadoo who communicated with aliens from Saturn and Venus, among other things. And never, look, it would be different if Wilbur Smith proved all of his claims. If Wilbur Smith proved all of his claims, including, crash retrievals and telepathically communicating with aliens, then okay. But none of that has ever been proven. So they are piling one fake story on top of another fake story. We're up to 2 fake stories completely and totally piled on top of the Dave Grusch story so far. The 1930s Italian UFO crash that is most likely a hoax. Ask any competent UFO investigator or researcher. That story is a hoax. And now we've got Wilbur Smith, UFO wackadoo from Canada, piled on top of it. This is extremely problematic. And if this is the best that these people have, then we've got a real problem here. We've got a huge problem with UFO believers. It just seems to me like these people just believe this stuff, and they're gonna just throw everything they can at this story to try to convince people that the story is real. How about you try to throw us some evidence that the story is true? And by the way, for those people who get so upset with me, I would love it if tomorrow they showed us a crash retrieved craft of non-human origin. That would make me cream in my pants. Because then at least I'll know I haven't wasted decades of my life researching every facet of the history, mythology, the characters in this, all of the stories. If that happened tomorrow, I would cream in my pants, along with you UFO believers. But unfortunately, to get me jizzing in my pants, I'm going to need a little more than 2 fake UFO stories piled on top of another UFO story of a so-called whistleblower who has so far 0 evidence presented, but an awful lot of claims. I'll give him that. And again, none of these claims are new. These are all claims that we've heard since the 1950s. Here's another example of a UFO whistleblower from the 1950s telling virtually the exact stories. Oh, there's non-human craft and they're flying around in our atmosphere. We don't know what they're doing. We're researching it. Oh, some of them are crashing and we retrieved some of it. Oh, I'm communicating with the aliens. Sure you are. Sure you are. So this is another layer of deception. And if not for people who recall the story of Wilbur Smith and are intimately familiar with the history of that largely unproven fake story, we might believe that this letter somehow proves Dave Grush's claims are true. They are building a house of cards here. And, you know, one of the funny things about a house of cards is you can get them pretty stable for a while, but one little gust of wind or one little flick and that whole house of cards is going to come crashing down. I, for one, am very interested in seeing if they're going to actually provide any proof, any evidence of their claims. I can't believe that this is all that they are putting forth to try to make people believe that this story is true. But, you know, look at the history of this thing. This is not the first time that people have just come forward with fantastic claims and haven't actually delivered any evidence, and people debated and wanted to believe the story was true and hoped the story was true for ages, right? And I do see a super sticker from Patrick Sheehan, but I'm having trouble locating it in the live chat. Patrick Sheehan, if you're still here, let me know. Was that early in the live chat? Oh, no, maybe not. So I will scroll through here and try to get to the end. We have more to share with you, but I wanted to take a moment since and recognize the live chat, and also especially recognize the support in the live chat in the form of the super chats. For those unaware, we are a viewer-supported show, and there's a money button down there, and you can use that to support us, among other things. 1 second, I'm still scrolling. There we go. Patrick Sheehan with a kind and generous $9.99 super sticker. We want to thank you for your kindness, your generosity, and your continued support of the show. Longtime show supporter. We appreciate you, Patrick Sheehan, and I know you appreciate us because you're always there to throw a couple bucks in our hat. Thank you for helping us to praise the cat.
Praise the cash, praise the cash, praise the cash.
All right, and now I'll take some comments and questions before we move on to the timeline. Buzzbomb at 7445 says, all this grifting BS ain't going to make me cream my jeans. Solid evidence, maybe. Yeah, that's where I'm at. And I want people to know that I'm not just, you know, a naysaying debunker. You know, I want to believe just like the poster, but unfortunately, I have believed too many people and been let down and disappointed. And by the way, this story is going to be the biggest overhype and underdelivered and the hugest big letdown ever in the history of UFOs. If they don't come through with some bodies, some material, some pictures, some videos, some public admissions from government officials that this is all real, this will be the biggest letdown in the history of all of UFOs. It will be the biggest letdown because this one has been overly hyped out the wazoo. I can't believe that this is all they got. Making claims like this, and this is all you've got for evidence or proof? Well, somebody told me they worked on the flying saucers. Who is that somebody? Could be Bob Lazar for all we know. You know? Could be Eric Davis. He's a wackadoo. Could be Hal Puthoff, Scientology wackadoo who wasted, what was it, hundreds of thousands of dollars of government money, or was it millions, investigating psychics? And he declared Uri Geller had real psychic powers when Uri Geller later admitted he used magic tricks to fool Hal Puthoff. Great job. Great job, Hal Puthoff. And a Scientologist, so he believes in all the Xanadu and all that stuff. Great. Great. I am going to... We're not going to go through this entire timeline for the sake of time, but I did want to make sure that we recognize this timeline. 1 second, because it's very important. All right, this is going to be very difficult for me to read, but how many pages is this? 1 second, friends. Let me just preview. All right, we've got 4 pages. We'll try to get through it. So this is a timeline of events leading up to the Grusch story and happening since Grusch's so-called blowing the whistle. And by the way, I hate the term whistleblower. Whistleblowers have evidence. This guy's got stories, and that's it. Dave Grusch, A Timeline of Events. May 1st, 2020, a classified briefing was generated about the UFO UAP presence via the Office of Naval Intelligence. Those familiar with the briefing articulated to Corbell that the goal was to destigmatize the UAP problem, to promote more intelligence collection regarding UAP incursions and encounters with active military deployments. This UAP briefing was a build on to a previous ONI, Office of Naval Intelligence briefing generated October 18, 2019. Both were distributed across a wide range of intelligence networking platforms such as SerpNet, JWICS, and various IntelLink systems. Corbell obtains an, quote, enormous anonymous data dump that contained the 2019 drone swarm data. That's April 21st. April 21st, also, Corbell provides 2019 drone swarm data to the UAPTF. And one might ask himself, why is Corbell getting classified information? Why isn't he under arrest? I don't know. Corbell releases slides from the 2019 drone swarm. This goes back a ways, right? This is 2021 about the drone swarms. There's a reason that this is put in the timeline. The reason that we're putting this in the timeline is because I believe, and it's my opinion and speculation, I have to freely admit that, and I'm working with several other researchers who concur and agree with me that the source of Corbell's classified leaks and the things that he's getting from the government that nobody else seems to be getting may indeed be Mr. Grusch. I want to stress may. I don't have proof or evidence of that yet, but we're including this stuff in the timeline for that reason. Compass Rose signs on as Grusch's attorney. Grusch allegedly met with Greer, according to Greer. That was back in March of this year. I think some of these are incorrectly marked 2022. This is supposed to be 2023. Grusch meets Corbell and Knapp at a Star Trek convention in Huntsville, Alabama. Corbell and Knapp and Grusch at Vegas Star Trek conference. That was, we're back to, this is not in chronological order, so it's a little confusing. I apologize. 8/28/22, Corbell and Knapp at Vegas Star Trek conference. Corbell announced upcoming release of Mosul orb picture. The same month that he meets Dave Grusch at a Star Trek convention. Isn't that interesting? Corbell Knapp appearance on Coast to Coast was canceled due to attempted suppression of information. 8/29/22, Grusch flew home and his clearance was suddenly suspended. Isn't that interesting? Right after the Mosul orb was dropped by Corbell, and Corbell claimed that someone was attempting suppression of information. And let me just say, if we find out that this Grusch was the source behind Corbell's stuff, and Corbell is helping promote the Grusch story, this is a completely and totally incestuous UFO clusterfuck right here. Just putting that out there. And again, this is speculation, but 8/29, Grusch flies home and his clearances are suspended right after meeting Corbell and Corbell announcing the upcoming release of the Mosul org picture. 1/25/23, Black Vault on the Mosul release. I thought that was an important piece. We've included some of theirs. Theories of Everything with Leslie Kleen. 3/23, Blumenthal and Keene introduced in early March that he had wanted to do a story with them and knew he was going to be coming out in the public arena. This is Grusch. Newsweek article, Congressman says alien UFO tech is being reverse engineered in secret. That's March 2023. April 2023. April 7th, Grusch left position in own accord. In order, he said, to advance government accountability through public awareness. April 2023, Senator Gillibrand held a UAP hearing in the Senate's Armed Services Committee subcommittee on emerging threats and capabilities, with Arrow's Sean Kirkpatrick testifying. As reported by Wired, Senator Gillibrand indicated that she may hold a hearing, although not necessarily public, to fully investigate Grusch's claims. DOP SR review cleared for open publication, but only one page was released. Blumenthal and Keene wrote the preliminary draft for the New York Times article that was rejected. That was on April 23rd. Coulthard and Zabel, day one of Grusch interview filming. They filmed Grusch's interview on May 8th and May 9th, second day of interview filming. And by the way, they said they had 7 hours of interview. They did the same interview 2 times. That's suspicious. Why would you do the same exact interview 2 times? Unless you were trying to carefully manipulate and massage the interview. You do 2 takes of the same questions. Why? Why would you do that if it was a true story? I don't know of any journalist that would interview someone for 3.5 hours and then do it all again the next day, unless they were looking for multiple takes so that they could massage and edit the hell out of the interview for maximum impact. That is very, very suspicious. On 5/19, Daniel Sheehan leaks Grusch's name. And by the way, we have the links for most of this stuff. Theories of Everything with John Greenwald was on June 4th. June 5th, Grusch announced on N2K podcast and a debrief article. Debrief article, intelligence officials say U.S. has retrieved craft of non-human origin. The big article comes out July 5th. News Nation first Greer clip, Grusch clip, also on June 5th. Also June 5th, Keene Blumenthal interview on the Micah Hanks program. Ralph Blumenthal interview with Howard Hughes. Everybody's doing the full court press to help sell the story on the 5th. On the 6th, we get the second News Nation clip of Dave Grusch. On 6/6, John from the Black Vault does a piece on Dave Grusch. Also on 6/6, Tucker Carlson, of all people, cover the story. 6/7, Ralph Blumenthal interview with Jim Harold live. News Nation lawmakers comment on Grusch. On 6/7, Richard Dolan at Contact in the Desert holds an emergency presentation. You gotta love Richard Dolan, right? And by the way, it was also Stephen Bassett and Linda Moulton Howe at Contact in the Desert all sat on a panel talking about disclosure is here. And Stephen Bassett said he was putting champagne on ice because disclosure is here. They all chips in on this story, and they're in the middle of a UFO conference and haven't researched anything, but they're declaring that disclosure is here. That was on June 7th. A little bit of a rush. The Grusch Rush. Fully in display at Contact in the Desert. Epoch Times did an article about the Pentagon using UFO technology for weaponry. But please be aware that the Epoch Times is a propaganda media outlet run by a Chinese cult. Vanity Fair article, why the New York Times, the Washington Post, and Politico didn't publish a seemingly bombshell report about UFOs. That was 6/8. 6/9, we have Compass Rose. 6/9, Ralph Blumenthal and Bob Maguire interview. Also on the 9th, Keene interview with The Hill. Also on the 9th, Martin Willis show, Ralph Blumenthal interview. The UAP whistleblower article and Aftermath podcast live shows. On June 10th, we have Keene and Blumenthal interview with Whitley Strieber. On the 11th, Bryce Zabel. And by the way, this isn't all of everybody. There's podcasts. There's hundreds of others. We put the most well-known outlets and shows on this timeline. 6/11, Bryce Zabel pre-Grusch show with Ryan Sprague. Of course, Ryan Sprague is involved in helping push this garbage because Ryan Sprague is a garbage peddler. So is Chrissy Newton, his sometimes partner. And they're both connected to the debrief. So they're going to do what they're supposed to do, which is help the debrief push this garbage story. 6/11, Grusch Coulthard News Nation interview for 40 minutes. Also 611, Michael Schellenberger on the Hill. 612, Need to Know. Post-Grusch review. Yeah, need to know. You need to know not to watch that show, right? IGIC was published on 612. Richard Dolan on Fade to Black, Fade to Bull. 613, Weaponized. Grusch discussed for the first time. Also in the 13th, Gillibrand statement. We need to look into whether there are rogue special access programs that no one is providing oversight for. The goal for me will be having a hearing at some point so we can assess if these SAPs actually exist. New York Post article on the 13th. Pentagon whistleblower claims Vatican helped U.S. retrieve the UFO from Benito Mussolini. Yeah, that was a completely and totally fake hoax story. Article, UFO whistleblower, a Christian response on 613. 614, Michael Shermer and Michael Schellenberger. That was a good interview. Although I don't trust Michael Schellenberger. I think he jumped into this story because he's not making money being an indie journalist anywhere else. So he's cashing in on UFOs now. And that's sad to see because Michael Schellenberger used to do good work. Now he's going to just be a garbage peddler. That's my opinion and I'm entitled to it. 615, the behavioral panel. Remember that. 617, Corbell on Russell Brand. 617, Zero Hedge article, Lies, Damn Lies, and UFOs, Deciphering the Truth Hidden Amid Decades of Propaganda. Coulthard interview with Howard Hughes. Outkick article on the 18th, Senator says UFO whistleblower claims are pretty close to debriefing he received. Yeah, and everybody, the true believers are all jumping up and down, but we don't know what briefing he received from whom. He could have been getting briefings from Hal Puthoff and Lou Elizondo, and they sure didn't tell him about the werewolves and the dino beavers and the poltergeists and the killer shapeshifters from Skinwalker Ranch. So maybe he believed them. Corbell and Knapp on 619 on Coast to Coast. And, you know, I hate that Corbell and Knapp have such a media arm. They have control over what gets put on Coast to Coast because George Knapp is a weekend host there. Then they have Weaponized. Then George Knapp has a television station putting out his stories. And then they have every other media outlet having Corbell on as a so-called UFO expert. He was a goddamn yoga teacher and a fake quantum jujitsu instructor and a failed artist whose mommy and daddy paid his bills before he was this UFO expert. 619, Newsweek article, the UFO whistleblower report. 619, Guardian article, Monday briefing. Why new claims about UFOs have experts wondering if the truth really is out there? So this is a general timeline of events. We've done our best to bring you some actual new information tonight. Yes, I agree. Ganja 73. Who wouldn't believe in dino beavers? The dino beavers are quite popular with Justin. I can imagine. Yes, and Mr. Ian says, WTF is quantum jujitsu. Apparently, quantum jujitsu is jujitsu that Mr. Corbell just made up. It doesn't exist. Go ask anybody that really knows jujitsu. He just made it up. Buzzbomb, we are entitled to our opinions via our God-given rights, also via the First Amendment. Amen. Yeah, I totally, yeah. Well, everybody's entitled to their opinions. The problem is when people start pushing their opinion as fact on people, and that's what I believe may be happening with this case. Bill effing Murray, I actually still respect Knapp, unlike most of the rest of the circle. Well, here's what I'll tell you. George Knapp never blocked me. He told me I'm an idiot, and he told me I'm stupid. He literally said, "You're a stupid idiot, Stephen," or something like that. I saved the messages from him. I grew up watching George Knapp. And when he got that Coast to Coast weekend gig, I used to listen to him. But I don't have any respect for Knapp anymore because come on, two completely and totally fake stories in the past month that he's put out with Corbell. Any credibility that he once had was shot once he started pushing the CIA TTSA techno scam. And by the way, George Knapp was an early investor in TTSA, and he helped them promote TTSA, and he didn't disclose that in any of the pieces he did promoting them as the UFO messiahs when he had investment in them. I think that's extremely slimy. It's despicable that he did that. You're not allowed as a journalist to promote some company that you bought early stock in without disclosing that, and he did that. So it is what it is. Alan Cantrell is mentioning Crystal Hippie Bitches. Yeah. George Knapp was on with Corbell last Sunday. Of course he was. JD says, I hate the bullying in the UFO community. Nobody is entitled to their own opinion in this world anymore without a deluge of ad hominem attacks like Eric Hecker did to Stephen. Yeah, if you demand evidence from people, they start calling you stupid or an idiot, or, you know, start telling people, you know, complete and total lies about you, like a certain hoax channel promoter did. But I'm still here. You know, they throw whatever they can at me. It kind of slides off now. Schoenberger's Dino Beaver, Mr. Ian. Yes. Grew. Favorite kinds of cigarettes. Well, I'm smoking these roll your own because I'm super cheap. That's just a big can of Bugler, right? And but I do have these vapes, and I'm really trying to. I have to like just absolutely agree with myself never to smoke anywhere inside my house, and just vape inside the house. I'm in the basement here, which is kind of my area. It's kind of my area and the family dump, you know, like anybody that has any crap they don't want to look at or deal with, they just throw it in here. But I have to, one of the things on my list of things to do, Gru Operative, is to quit smoking, at least just vape and not smoke anymore. It's a really terrible habit. It's worse. I quit drinking alcohol. And I thought that was going to be extremely difficult for me. It was a little bit, but nowhere near as difficult as it is for me to stop smoking. My friend, Mr. Ian, commented to me, because we both happen to be very ADD, and we're of the age before they identified ADD in people and medicated people. So a lot of people who smoke, and I think this is very true, are self-medicating their ADD. The nicotine does something. It lets me focus for a little while, 20 minutes. And then I smoke again, and I can focus for another 20 minutes. So it may just all come down to self-medicating. But I've been trying, and I'm having a really tough time. I have been making some changes to my diet, and I'll have more details on that. I've started on a very crazy diet this week. And I'm not sure I'm going to be able to stick to it. So I don't want to talk about it until I get at least a week or two in. Second ad. Yeah, they put in a mid-roll now, Alan Cantrell, and I'm sorry about that. Yeah, it's a stimulant. So, yeah. It's dopamine related, and nicotine hacks your dopamine release. Yeah, it could be the reason for that. You know, there's a reason why people like smoking so much that they will continue to do it even when they know it's largely detrimental to their health. I'm going to take more comments and questions from the live chat. I always have to put this banner up to make sure that people understand that the show is not over. We are a viewer-supported show, so once during the show, we do play this wonderful bumper with the man with the golden voice, just letting you know how you too can help us to support the shows and future broadcasts. We'll be right back, friends.
Thanks for being here. This is Truthseekers with your host, Stephen Cambion. Please rate, like, and comment on our videos or podcasts. If you are listening to an audio podcast, please rate us 5 stars to help us rise in the search rankings. If you are watching on YouTube, please like, comment, and subscribe to our channel. If you're listening to an audio podcast, we love and appreciate you listeners, but you are missing the live tapings. All our shows are recorded live with video feed. We'd love you to come be a part of our live broadcasts and tapings for the podcast. Head on over to YouTube, click the search tool, the little magnifying glass, put Truthseekers, one word in the search bar, and hit enter. You'll see a strange and mysterious guy with sunglasses. That means you found the channel. Go there, smash the subscribe button, and hit the notification bell to receive up-to-date info on our YouTube channel. We welcome you to be a part of our live taping and our chat group during the live broadcasts. Seek the truth. Speak the truth. This is Truthseekers. Truthseekers. Truthseekers is a viewer-supported show. Wonderful people like you who enjoy this show send pledges in the form of super chats, super stickers, super thanks, PayPal, or Cash App. Instructions for how to help are in the description. You can also join our Patreon, and for as little as $1 a month you can get extra content. Patreon supporters get a backstage pass, early access to all our production videos before they are distributed publicly, Stephen Campion's music, private writings, a monthly show journal, and more. You can also become a YouTube channel member for $5 a month. A YouTube membership includes all of the Patreon benefits, plus a special members badge, priority reply to video comments, and the live chat, plus a monthly members-only video. We thank you all, kind and generous benefactors, for supporting Truthseekers. Thank you for your generosity and support. Truthseekers is a viewer-supported show. Now there's a great way to support these broadcasts and show your support. Please be sure and check out our merchandise store. Links to our 2 merchandise online stores are in the links to this video or podcast. The Amazon storefront ships super quickly in the United States, Great Britain, and in many more places. Amazon may not ship to your country or location. If that's the case, hit our second merchandise link in the description and visit our Redbubble storefront. Merchandise from our Redbubble storefront ships worldwide, but may take longer than Amazon. We've got a great deal of super high quality merchandise for you to choose from, including t-shirts, phone cases, sweatshirts, and even pillows. The feedback from our products have been overwhelmingly great. Quality products and fast shipping. People all over the world are buying some merchandise and showing their support of the show. Praise the cash! Praise the cash! Praise the cash! We thank you all, kind and generous benefactors who are buying some merchandise and helping us to continue this journey.
We are back, friends. I wanted to take a moment to ask or answer, I suppose, the question in our show tonight, which was, are non-human entities among us? I was thinking about this for a moment today while taking a walk, of all things, but that's where I do some great thinking, that or pacing around the house. So non-human entities have been with humans since the dawn of humanity. And I think it's very important that we recognize that. there have been non-human entities with us since the beginning of human history. One can think of the gods or God, certainly a non-human entity, angels, demons, many of the things that we consider mythology now. But one thing that I will tell you, especially in the case of actual demons, there is more evidence of demons among us than aliens. And specifically, when you get into some of the documented evidence of exorcisms and demonic possession, which is something we'll be doing a series on here, there are some tantalizing and crazy documented accounts of people, for example, knowing how to speak ancient Aramaic with perfect diction, a dead language, or ancient Latin or ancient Greek or ancient Hebrew, that have never been exposed to that before they came under the alleged or apparent possession of demonic entities. There has been documented, at least documented cases of levitation and all kinds of psychic phenomenon, and what most people, I suppose, would consider poltergeist phenomenon, but things that just are preternatural, simply cannot be explained by normal natural laws of science and physics that accompany demonic possession. So, and certainly being a religious and spiritual person, I believe in the reality of angels and demons. Your opinion may vary. Something that I just believe. Is there evidence of angels? Well, we have just as much evidence for the existence of angels as we do for the existence of aliens. Largely, we have a lot of stories, ancient stories, biblical stories, modern stories of angelic intervention in people's lives and things like that. So I don't think that this paradigm shift that people think, or ontological shock that people are talking about, is a reality. When we consider that a large portion of the human race has accepted and believed in non-human entities for thousands and thousands of years already, would the existence of another type of non-human entity, if it were proven 100% to be true, would that really change things for us? I think that the human race, many of us already believe in non-human entities in the form of angels or demons or the Nephilim, for example, or many people are ardent believers in Bigfoot, and that certainly would be considered another form of non-human intelligence. And we also have to remember that artificial intelligence is coming, or already here, depending on who you ask. I have a background in computer science, and I can tell you that the singularity is going to be here within 20 years. I am 100% convinced of it. I have friends that are programmers and researchers who are also convinced of it. Within 20 years, we will have a general purpose AI, which will be smarter than a human and more capable than a human. Within 20 years, we can see pieces of this already. And a lot of this AI software is coming to destroy everyone's jobs. You thought that AI would do things that nobody wants to do, right? Like maybe farm work, put some AIs in those robots so they can pick those peaches or oranges, or, farm strawberries for us lazy humans. Like that would be one great use of AI. But what we're seeing is that even the jobs that most people thought would always be safe, like artist, poet, author, journalist, content creator, those are going to be replaced soon. And actually, I think it's going to be a very sad day, because someday all of us will open up our browsers and almost everything that we consume will be created by an artificial intelligence. There will certainly be movies. There will be cartoons created completely and totally by AI. There will be children's books. There's already children's books written by AI. Did you know that? So non-human intelligences are already among us, some of which we are responsible for, like artificial intelligence. However, I think that there is ample, at least documented stories and evidence of non-human entities interacting with us for ages. And wouldn't, things like demons and angels and succubi and incubus and, all of these other things, wouldn't that be considered a form of non-human intelligence? And many people have just accepted that there are non-human intelligences already. So would our worldview really change if we found out that there was other intelligences and they happened to come from other dimensions or other planetary bodies in the universe? I really don't think so. And I don't think that we're going to have that, come together, kumbaya, get together in a circle, and we're all human brothers moment that people believe that we will. So I think it's interesting that along comes Dave Grusch, sort of going, I'm here to confirm the existence of non-human intelligences, when many people already believe in non-human intelligences. If you believe in a God, any God, if you believe in any God whatsoever, you already believe in a non-human intelligence. If you are Christian or if you are Christian or Jewish, you likely believe in the existence of angels and demons and maybe even the Nephilim. And those are certainly non-human intelligences. If you are Muslim, you believe in the jinn, which is another form of non-human intelligence. And the jinn are very interesting in that they may be demons, they may be angels, or they may be both. The jinn are a very interesting and fascinating form of non-human intelligence. And there is ample and documented evidence of the jinn in the Muslim faith, scriptures, writings, ancient texts, and more. So are non-human intelligences among us? I would like to think so. I would certainly like to think that there are angels among us. I believe that I have seen in my own life the work of both angels and demons, right? I was going down a pretty deep, dark path with alcohol, and I got pulled out of that by what I can only describe as a divine force. It seemed intelligent, it seemed caring, it seemed logical, it seemed intelligent to me. So perhaps, and then conversely, especially in the music world, I believe that I have seen the work of demons in my life, demons of lust, demons of sloth, demons of overindulgence, for sure. And I just think it's incredibly interesting that along comes Dave Grusch, like, hi, I'm here to confirm the existence of non-human intelligences. And if you're a spiritual person, you already believe in non-human intelligences, or maybe if you're religious, especially, you should believe in non-human intelligences. So are non-human intelligences among us? I believe that they are. And I don't believe that adding some alien from another planetary body in the galaxy somewhere, or for all we know, there are alien artificial intelligences, right? For all we know, there are aquatic forms of intelligences. And what about that? Non-human intelligences. Are orca whales and dolphins as intelligent as humans? It depends on who you ask, but a lot of people believe so. What about the great apes? Are they a form of non-human intelligences? I believe that the argument can be made for that. So non-human intelligences, I believe, are here. 1 second. So we'll take some comments and questions from the live chat, and we will also check in with our PayPal friends. Okay, we have a kind and generous $2.50 PayPal pledge from Mikey from the United Kingdom. Thank you, Mikey, for your kindness, generosity, and support. We have a $150 PayPal from Maria. Thank you, Maria, for your kindness, generosity, and support. And Maria writes, thanks for continuing your great work. I hope this helps you continue. Buy some more software or things you need with it. Great. Well, we thank you for your kindness, generosity, and support of the show. We want to thank everybody for their help. This is a viewer-supported show, and it's only through the kindness, generosity, and support of people like all of you helping us to praise the cash that we're able to continue to do this. We also want to take a moment to thank you, kind and generous Patreon supporters, you super chatters, super sticker purchasers, PayPal pledgers, channel members, and Twitch subscribers. Thanks all of you for helping us to praise the cash.
Praise the cash, praise the cash, praise the cash. Thank you for your kindness. Thank you for your generosity. Praise the cash, praise the cash, praise the cash.
Thank you. Steve Long is here. I saw Steve Long was just on Erica Luke's show. And hey, let me ask you a question. How come your internet wasn't a potato on Erica? Every time, I love Steve Long, but every time he comes on my show, his internet is run by a potato. But he managed to get through Erica Luke's show with good internet. So whatever internet you used on Erica Luke's show, use that internet. And that's funny that I saw you there because I was at the cabin and I said, I was just thinking of future guests and you came to mind, and then you being on her show came across my feed. So I encourage people to check it out, though. I want to clip some of that stuff that you said. It was good stuff. Good job. The context says, I believe non-intelligent humans are real. Exhibit A, Corey Good. And the context is here. Daniel, did you know, Daniel, I'm still making a couple of dollars off of you. I just want to, in full disclosure, pardon the pun, I have recently been told by an expert in audio podcasts that I have 700 or 900, I think maybe 1,000 episodes of Truthseekers now, that I have to start cycling them through the audio podcasts, put 3 or 5 a day on there. Not one, and then we should triple the show's income or something. So I started cycling them through, and you might notice on my Twitter feed that episode that you and I did with Peter Slattery, way back on Peter Slattery, the Australian Corey Good, way back in the beginning of the Truthseeker show 3+ years ago. Yeah, so praise the cash, Daniel. I'm still able to make a buck off of your ancient appearance on Truthseekers, but thank you for being one of our early guests. Mr. Ian says thank you for being such a great audience, and Randy 1979 says the demons keep tripping Biden. Well, something is tripping Biden. I think it's his age, right? Appreciate the shout out, Stephen. Yes, I fixed the internet issue. Yeah, how come you can fix it for her, but you let me suffer through? He came on here and he's like, oh, maybe we shouldn't do video. And then he compared, his audio sounded like Darth Vader. He had internet from a potato. But I'm glad to see, because now I won't, I kind of hesitated to book you again, because that was my first thought, like, oh no, he's got horrible internet. Super smart guy, great things to share, but Jesus, his internet is horrific. MK Ultra Prime, I'm pro the train over the Pacific Ocean to the Indian Ocean. We do these things not because they're easy, because they are hard. Arthur C. Clarke or something. Yes, not all of us can get a great job with Rebel News. How come everybody's getting bigger, better gigs but me, Daniel? Did you know that Spooky got like a film deal? I'd like to think that I had something to do with that, but Spooky gets a film deal. My friend Manny gets to go work for Bob Kvyat doing films. And that Bob Kvyat is the producer of Alien Autopsy and Fact or Fiction and Unsolved Mysteries and all this other, started a film company, and Manny got a job. My friend Manny gets a job working for him. Spooky's out of here. You're out of here. You got a job with Rebel News. I'm still here. I'm still here grinding away there, Daniel. Everybody gets the bigger, better deal. That Manny got my gig with Bob Kivia. Foxglove, Blade Runner, Transcendence, Avatar, Logan, Sport, Run. Those are all great movies. Operation Shutdown. Speaking of fixing, did Ron from Cosmic Neighbors ever fix your 3D printer? No, but my neighbor at the cabin claims it's fixed, and he just gave it back to me literally last weekend, Operation Shutdown. And it's sitting at the cabin, but I haven't printed anything with it yet. So when I go there this weekend, as soon as I get there on Friday night, I'm going to start a 2-day, 18-inch print, and we'll see if it makes it to the end, right? Yeah. Third Coast Swing is here. Has anyone seen this footage James Fox and the Dingleberry Logan Paul was talking about? No. Well, several people have seen it, but it's not been released publicly. Apparently, they snuck a button camera and caught crazy UFO footage from some dude that wouldn't sell the tape. Yeah, we did a show on that, and let me see if I can find it for you. I'll put it in the live chat. We did a whole show on that story, which is why you should check out our vast array of archived stories here. I think you can search on our channel, Best Area 51 video coming soon. And that was 1 month ago. And I'm sorry to say that the footage was never released. So what does that mean? Is it ever going to be released? Who knows? But yeah, Logan Paul stole footage essentially from a guy who refused to sell it. And then he threatened to release it. Word that the actual owner of the footage was going to release the proper footage, but we haven't gotten it yet. 1 second. I have to get through. Okay, here. Link to best UFO footage in your story. You can hear that full story. I've put the link there, Third Coast Swing, into the live chat. And I want to encourage people also, and just notify people, because I've been getting a lot of messages lately where somebody will use the search on our channel, but they don't find something. If it's a live show, you have to search in live shows under the live tab. If it's a video, which means pre-recorded and uploaded, you have to search in the videos tab. So if you're looking for something on our channel, search both and you'll likely find it. In the rare event that you're sure that you saw something here or somebody told you about a show here that you can't find, then do email me at truthseekershow@gmail.com, and I will certainly try to help you. I'm always sending people links. Somebody couldn't find the Richard Doty interview link a couple of days ago. Also, be sure that you follow me on Twitter. It's at Stephen Cambion. My DMs are open there. So I check my DMs on Twitter daily, and I check the truthseekershow@gmail.com email. Also, I want to encourage you to check out our website. It's truthseekershow.com. And I also want to be sure to remind everybody makes requests, and sometimes it takes us a little bit of time, right? But people asked us to do a Trixie shirt, and here it is. Trixie praising the cash harder than any grifter. So people ask for a Trixie shirt. We have Trixie praising the cash harder than any grifter shirt now available in our merchandise store, and links are in the description of the video. And Intel Lady, Trixie, I will have to send you a shirt, so I will contact you to do that. And Mr. Ian reminding everybody, you can also chat to the team after the show on our Discord server, and there's the invitation link to the Discord server. We encourage you, if you like these live chats, you could do it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week in our Discord server. And we've got all these different categories. By the way, I do want to mention something. Mr. Ian and others may not be aware, but there has been an uptick of people posting really raunchy stuff in our Discord server. And although I have said, I don't have time to moderate every single post. In the event that you see something that's really, really out there, like a racist post or a post attacking somebody's ethnicity or religion or sexual orientation or anything like that. We want everybody there to feel welcome. So no, you can't post racist memes. You can't post anti-gay, slurs, or everybody should feel welcome there. So please don't do that. But if you should happen to see something like that you think is really over the line, message me and that stuff will be deleted. Somebody posted some really, really out there racist stuff. I wasn't aware of it, but when somebody brought it to my attention, we've deleted all those things. So please, that's the only thing we ask, is just be respectful of each other in the Discord. The same as in the live chat. No personal attacks. Don't attack somebody's religion or ethnicity or sexual orientation or any of that stuff. We want everybody to feel welcome there. And Ganja wants to know if Trixie comes with the shirt. If Trixie came with the shirt, I think I wouldn't need a show anymore. We could just sell Trixie and shirts, right? Foxglove says, I'm sure that person, I'm not sure who was posting it, but we don't even want to save that stuff for Red Letter Media Discord page. Yes. Third Coast Swing says, I keep worrying about alien scientist, or keep thinking he is now one of the Majestic 12s. Yeah, I've been kind of worried about him too. Thank you for reminding me. I'm going to check in with them. I know he said he was taking a break, but I still see him posting on Twitter, so I don't think he really did take a break. I haven't checked on his YouTube channel in a while. Yeah, just be careful. Trixie Real Doll. Well, maybe we could hook that up. Yeah. As long as it's images of David Wilcock, you can post all the memes about David Wilcock you want, right? Taxpayer says, don't worry, CIA probably has a copy of everything. Yeah, it's kind of the story. It's the story of my life. So comments or questions from me, please put them in all capital letters. Jewel Chicky Arlene, do you have moderators in your Discord? Yes, but I have previously been very heavy-handed about people deleting stuff, because here's what was happening. Somebody would come in our Discord and be very right-leaning politically, and they would post a bunch of memes in the meme section that were very critical of the left, right? And then somebody who was a moderator and very left-leaning got pissed off and deleted all their posts. And I said, that's not really fair, because you left all the left-leaning posts that are making fun of the right side. So I kind of told everybody to back off of deleting posts. And now we got people just posting outright outrageous racist memes. So I'll have to talk to I believe we have people that have mod status that can delete posts. So I will, I'll be talking to them, and we'll see if we can't get this situation resolved. Generally, most people are posting, stuff about conspiracy land and friendly things, but there's some people that just think, well, this looks like a good place to, post my racist beliefs in a semi-public Discord, I was very disappointed when I saw there was only 5 or 6 posts, and they went back a few months, and I just missed them because I don't look at that section every month or every day. So I'm going to be a little more on the ball. And Jewel Chicky Arlene, you're free to become a chat room moderator. I would trust your judgment with saying this is, and we want free speech. So I don't care if something's a racy post, but not when it's like outright hateful or racist. We will not support that in our Discord. I was wondering about Discord policies after some of those recent memes. Well, yeah, thank you, Wade Drummer. And just know, for anybody who did see any of that stuff, I apologize. That's all I can do. I didn't post it. I'm not even sure off the top of my head who it was that posted it, and I don't want to name and shame them. It's enough to say, don't do that in our Discord, or we'll delete it, and we will likely delete you from our Discord. We want people to feel welcome there. Yeah, Star Galactic Federation. I'm disappointed in that too. But, some people do dirty, disgusting things to get ahead. So I'm not surprised. And by the way, we can return to a point I was making at the beginning of the broadcast. There are people out there that have been lying to you, right? The same people that's told you that this Greer disclosure event is going to be great and you ought to buy it for $500 now have their hands out, and they think that they should be allowed to collect money so that they can tell people their opinions on this Grusch story. No, you lied about Greer, you slime ball. You lied about his whistleblowers. They were a joke, right? Big nothing burger. The same people who pump hoaxes, who pump fake stories, and pump things like Greer's so-called historic disclosure event are now doing shows, and they're supposed to be experts, and they're going to give you their opinion. But talk is cheap. All some people do is talk, right? All some people do is talk. They don't offer anything. They don't bring new information. They don't research anything. They don't investigate anything. And a lot of these people have very little or very shallow knowledge and understanding of the history of these conspiracy land stories and topics. I like to think we do better here. And that is certainly worth it. William, this is a crazy suggestion, but I'm going to entertain it. What about some Trixie fleshlights? They should sell good in the UFO community. I'm going to look into that possibility, right? And yes, Third Coast Swing, we will. I kind of think that I'm honestly, I'm just amazed that people are tuning into these liars, scammers, and hoaxers and hoaxer supporters. Like, let's listen to what they have to say. They've lied to you for years. Linda Moulton Howe doll. Oh, it's gross. And somebody asked earlier, yeah, I kind of wore this for the haters who always say I look like Kylo Ren. My children gave me this for Father's Day. Zachary and Xavier. It says, I am your father, and they customized it. They let you customize this to look like your dad. So there I am, Daddy. Yeah. And that will certainly be enjoyed by those haters that say I look like Kylo Ren, right? Why is Greer taking off his shirt? Is he trying to make aliens sick? I'm not so sure about that, right? Grifting is a lot easier than being a doctor. Yeah. Ganja always makes me laugh because a lot of people may be aware that Linda Moulton Howe is most famous for stories about those dead cattle and the cattle mutilations. And Ganja's always saying that Linda Moulton Howe she hit those cows in the head with a shovel so she'd have a story to sell. And dude, every time I think of Linda Moulton Howe like grabbing a shovel and smacking a cow in the head to death and mutilating it so she could sell a fake story, which is totally something that she would do, I think. Yeah. Linda Moulton Howe hit those cows in the head with a shovel. Randy said, who said Linda Moulton Howe doll? That's gross. Yeah. Scott Hernandez says, I wouldn't trust anybody that worked for ATIP. Yes, Scott. I generally don't trust anybody that works for an imaginary organization in the land of make-believe either. Yeah. I like. Bob Lazar is the only one that has me wondering. On to the rest. Well, taxpayer, you won't be wondering if you watch all our Bob Lazar coverage. Just go to that little magnifying glass, the search tool in our channel, and search for Bob Lazar. Watch all of them and come back to me when you're done and tell me that you're still wondering if Bob Lazar is real or not. Gulf Breeze 43. Why do you think Obama is making an alien movie? And why are we seeing more UFO stuff in the media now from people we've never heard of, all with the same government narrative? That could be PSYOP, yeah. Linda Moulton Howe, award-winning shoveler. Yeah. Linda Moulton Howe, says Mr. Ian, cutting a hole in a cow with a hot cookie cutter and even gloves and oven gloves. Yeah. Yeah, Dave Grush is on the fast track to a Gaia TV series. I believe that as well. Cow tipping champion of 1976 to 2023, Linda Moulton Howe. Yes. Yeah. And by the way, I try to not let it bother me because I consider our show is in a class of its own. We have not sold fake stories. We have not promoted fake stories. We have not done the UFO circle jerks. We didn't lie to our audience for years like some of these other people have. We didn't hook up with a hoax channel to get ahead. We didn't steal copyrighted news broadcasts to get more subscribers and more viewers. People do. Every time I think, like, it can't get any slimier or scummier here, one of these UFO circle jerkers or UFO bottom feeding parasites with no job, by the way, they try to live off of UFOs. That's your first clue that that person is a scumball and a slime ball and will be willing to sell anything, fake story or whatever, to make money, to survive. Every time I think it can't get any slimier or scummier here, one of these bottom feeding parasite low life scumballs does something, right? Like steal copyright broadcasts, right? So they could get thousands of live viewers because everybody wants to tune in and, see a pirated broadcast that person had no right. By the way, that's down off their channel. So that, we didn't do anything wrong. Then why is it off the channel then? It was taken down. And I hear that News Nation is copyright claim taking people's videos down, even if you play a clip of that. Interesting. What's up with the aliens in the backyard story? The kid was quick to talk about Netflix and Amazon offering a show for him. Yeah, I think it's pretty clear that that's a hoax. That's why we skipped it. But other people, like the bottom feeding slime balls that I just mentioned, they couldn't wait to clickbait that shit, right? If a story is very obviously a hoax, we might mention it, but I'm not going to do a whole show to get people to tune in and then tell them it's a hoax, right? The vultures and there's literally carrion in the UFO community, vultures, right? That can't wait to pick the corpse of a failing fake story clean so that they can put a couple of bucks in their pocket. I hope to God that I always maintain some other form of income outside of this because I don't have to do anything slimy. I refuse to. I have other, the show income here does not pay my bills. It pays for the show's expenses, and that's it. So when you get these people who make their full-time living, they don't have a real job, this is all they do, of course they're going to have to lie to you. Of course they're going to have to mislead people. Of course they're going to have to clickbait garbage title things, right? But it is what it is, and this is where we find ourselves. So Jay Griff, I don't know who you're talking about. Chucky. Oh, it's just a joke. Okay. You got to be careful if you're making claims of domestic violence or abuse against people in the live chat, unless you have evidence of that, please. Buzz Bomb says Linda Moulton Howe looked pretty good back in the day. She's a former beauty queen. For sure, they saw a 10-foot alien and never thought to photograph or videotape it. Yeah, right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I didn't know about the Obama film. Apparently, it's based on the Betty and Barney Hill abduction, and UFC fighter Angela Hill is Barney's granddaughter, as it turns out. Well, that's pretty interesting. Oh, God, you guys are going to make me throw up tonight. First, you're talking about a Linda Moulton Howe sex doll. Now you're talking about a Linda Moulton Howe had an OnlyFans. People would subscribe. There's deep fakes, Daniel. You should do that. Did you see the interview Salvador Payas did with Project Unity? Thoughts on Payas' legitimacy? Well, hi, Adenamug. Project Unity is the bottom feeding garbage peddlers that I'm talking about, one of them. And Project Unity is an outlet for an echo chamber. Project Unity exists to help the UFO grifters grift. I'm not saying Salvador Payas is a grifter. He does very few interviews. However, what I will say about Salvador Payas is that if those patents really worked, he could show us a technology demonstrator, and he hasn't, and he won't. And then he makes claims of like leaving the secret sauce out of the patents and all these other things. I don't believe that those are workable technologies. I don't believe that those patents are real. Well, I believe the patents are real, but I don't believe that the secret to anti-gravity is in those patents. Remember, David Wilcock claimed that he was going to make hover cars with the Salvador Payas patents. That was over a year ago. How come we haven't seen any hover car? Is it because those patents are science fiction gobbledygook and don't really contain the secrets of anti-gravity or free energy as claimed? That's what I believe. But I have not seen that specific interview. I've seen Kurt Jamungel's interview with Salvador Payas and a few others. Yes, Archaic Revival, it is definitely all your fault. I blame myself. I'm a bad influence on innocent truth seekers. Yes. No, nobody has. MK Ultra Prime asks, has anyone ever messed with that Hutchinson effect work outside of just him? No. And no one, including Hutchinson, has ever been able to recreate the effects seen in those original videos, which I believe are a hoax. Hutchinson has been caught hoaxing things, including using fishing string to make something appear to levitate and other things. Why would he fake things sometimes? Or was he faking things all the time? And he always needs money. You ever notice that? They used wires. Google it. Yeah, a lot of people believe that. You could see the fishing line in one of the things, right? Yes, you can see the fishing line. So we've done our due diligence for today, friends. Got a long day ahead of me tomorrow with both children. My son just had a lot of dental work and he's in a bad mood, so I'm going to go check on him. I will be back tomorrow night at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we've got a really fun show for tomorrow. We're going to be blowing off some steam, and if you need a good laugh or, please come and visit us again. We're here 3 days a week at 9 p.m. Eastern. This week it will be Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday night, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. We will be here, and I hope you will be here with us. So we have done our due diligence. I will be continuing coverage on Dave Grusch, but only when there is new information worthy of doing an entire show on Mr. Grusch. Unlike the clickbait garbage peddlers that did like 10 shows already on Grusch and gave you no new information, each time we've done a show on Grusch, it was to provide new information. And I think that is certainly the correct way to do it. We like to give more than we take here and not wear out our welcome as well, which is why we're back to just doing 3 shows a week. We may do 4. It depends on the week. But I need time for family and other work pursuits that pay my actual, house bills and cabin time. I finally finished that bathroom. I'll be doing a video walkthrough of that this weekend. I forgot to do it. Before leaving the cabin, and I spent all last weekend cleaning the cabin, getting the cabin ready, finishing the cabin bathroom. Everything's ready for my family to go up there this weekend, which I am looking very forward to. First weekend at the cabin for the summer with the whole family, and I'll probably be checking in from there. But we'll be back tomorrow night at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So that's all we got for you, friends. Until next time. My name is Stephen Cambion. Good night, and God bless all of you.